What's going on? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack Productions. As you can see, I'm being joined once again by Fluff, Jake, and Jimmy.
What's up, people?
What's going on, y'all?
I'm not used to being last.
I know, I did that one on purpose. Also, it's in order of my screens, by the way, so it just worked out that way. Today we got a few things to talk about. We're going to go over our experience with the new set, digital client, how that was, because both me and Jimmy did get to play it. We can't really show footage because we didn't get allowed to do that, but we can talk about the fun interactions and bugs we came across. And then whatever else we want to talk about as we go on. Also, we'll start with this one. Fluff, you have a match later this week where you're trying to play a card. You didn't get a chance to play the card, but you did have a profile this past week where you did show off a card you got, which is the Holo. Oh, that's a good. There we go. That's good.
Yeah, that actually showed up nicely.
This card looks phenomenal. We are working on getting a case for it. We talked about getting it graded, but I think you just want to get a nice little display case for it, though, instead.
Yeah, I don't see the point of getting it graded unless we were going to try to flip it.
Yeah.
That's not really my interest. I'm not really trying to make money on the card. I wanted the card as a collector. Our buddy Chase pulled it.
Yeah.
And we worked out a deal there. I'm not going to go into specifics of the deal because I don't want to make anyone feel any particular type of way about it. It's not really about that. It was kind of a card I saw. I knew I wanted it. I'm glad someone in our community got to buy it and got to benefit off of it.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I'm glad it stayed like in the group, you know.
Jimmy, you were with Chase when he pulled this. You want to kind of go over that?
Oh boy. So our shop got allocated 6 collectors boxes.
Yeah, 6.
6 cases, 6 boxes.
Six individual boxes. I don't want to go into like big distributor talk, but pretty much if you ran a pre-release event, you got access to get collectors boxes from the distributor, and we were allocated 6 of them, and our shop owner was gracious enough to sell us the boxes at price, and not trying to flip them online. He wanted them to stay in the community, which we are super grateful for. And they all sold, surprisingly, after everybody going into the set was like, I don't want no collector's box. And then like everybody's like, hey, you gonna need them collector's boxes? You know, let me get out this collector's boxes.
What we did with one of them, which I thought was really fun, is a bunch of people put money in and everybody got 2 packs and we all like sat down and opened it together. That was really fun. And that took some of the sting out of like the investment price of the item too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I think everybody was able to walk away with like cards that they wanted and traded around, except for Bancroft. He got all the good green stuff, right, Bancroft?
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
But yeah, I was heavily considering buying that box for myself, but Chase had expressed some interest into it, and I'm like, I'm not gonna undercut the homie and take the box out from under him. So I was, to my good gracious, I was like, Chase, you can purchase my box. It's okay. And I felt really bad for him at first because he was trying to pull for Android 18, and he was pulling gas though. He was pulling the Android 21 stuff.
It was like the best box I had seen.
Yeah, the box was wild. Like it was like it was all the good yellow and good Android 21 stuff. And like I was sitting there, I was like, "Ooh, my deck gonna be looking pretty good after this." And then he was kind of getting disappointed, and he got to the last card, and he opens it, and he's looking at it, and like I don't think he realized like what the value of the card was.
Wait, was it literally the last pack?
Yeah, no, it was not the last pack.
Okay,
it was
okay.
It was
the last card in the pack.
It was the last card in the pack, and like I think my reaction of ooh, like going primal at that moment kind of triggered him to like, oh shit, this is hot. Yeah, I'm glad I was there to be able to see it pulled because I've never seen something like that pulled, and I'm glad a good friend Chase, I've known him since middle school, so I'm glad to see a homie plus off of it, and I'm glad it's staying in the group. And I'm I'm not glad that Fluff did something to me with it.
That match wasn't on camera. We can talk about that later if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great. I have some words for that match.
All I know, at some point you had contacted Fluff, and then I'm over in
You're in Cincinnati.
I'm in Cincinnati for Horror Fest or Horror Hound to see Matthew
Horror
Lillard.
Hound Festival.
Yeah, to see Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich, and all of a sudden I have no signal where I'm at because I'm like in this basement area waiting for the photographs and whatnot. And I look at my phone, a random text pops up, "Call me now, please." And I'm like, "What's going on?"
So I'm sitting at home minding my own business. I get this message from Jimmy that's like, "Hey, you working?" And I'm like, "No, what's up, dog?" And he goes, "You need to come to the Scabbard right now." And then he calls me and he's like, "Yo, dude, Chase just pulled the Ghost Rare. Like, you got to come check this thing out." It's like, "Dude, I don't want to come. Like, if I see it, I'm going to want it."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Exactly. Come on." Like,
it didn't take much convincing. I got the text. Maybe we can flash it on screen or something if Fluff's down with it. But he said, "If I see it, I will buy it." And then I was like, "I get you, bro. That ain't no worries." And then I reply with, he pulled some Android 7 or the Invoker gold foils as well, and he's like, "All right, I'm on my way."
I will say the
and
benefit.
It didn't take much convincing.
The benefit of that is that Fluff lives literally 2 minutes away from the shop.
Yeah,
like it's not that much of a drive, so he's not going out of his way to some degree for this. But
yeah, so it was wild, and I was like, okay, I have a price that I can put down on it right now and not walk away with a ton of buyer's remorse. I was like, but let me talk to Bancroft and see if he has any interest in us like co-owning the card, being the co-parents that we are. And Bancroft was basically like, "Yeah, dude, go on ahead and go for it." So we walked away with the gold rare. Or the ghost rare. I'm super happy with that.
It's the second card I feel like you've ever wanted to, that you literally hunted after. Like the first one being Matthew Mercer's hit signed card, and this being the second card. Like there's not a lot of cards that you go, "Yeah, I need this card just to have it."
Yeah, just to own as a collector. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the signed hit was the last card I did that with.
Yeah.
Like, I have no want to own any of the signature rares. Maybe the Beerus out of Tournament of Power, but like, I just have no want for any of the other signatures. I didn't want any of the God rares that came out, but I saw this card and was like, "Ooh, I know that I want that."
All right. So moving a little bit further down the line, we've been playing set 20. What do you guys? Well, hang on. Jake hasn't been playing it, but what do you guys think?
Oh man, come on.
You've been teching set 20 into your decks, but you haven't really played in the new stuff.
Well, every week there's multiple Majin, or there'll be a Majin Vegeta, which I'm interested in, A21, which I'm interested in, and I don't want, or Invoker, which I'm interested in, and I don't really want to double load the event with two of the same deck if it's like an 8-person event. So I'll just play like old stuff with new tech in it.
Speaking of those decks, I think Fluff and Jimmy have played those decks. We talked about Jimmy, I think, for a bit, how much you're loving 21 between your matchups and your profiles, but Fluff, how was playing Majin Vegeta and Invoker?
I'll generically touch on the set as a whole. When I took my hiatus, set 19 was getting released, and nothing in set 19 was hype for me. Looking at set 20, I had of course been watching that and planning on coming back to the game as tax season wrapped up, and like my hiatus kind of did what I wanted it to do and clear my head on the game. But I feel like everything in set 20, except for Android 17 and Universe 3, really spoke to me as a player, as like I wanted to play those decks. I'm interested in those decks. I'm interested in seeing what those decks can do. So like Yellow Majin Buu is surprisingly good. Spirit Bomb is surprisingly good. Android 18 is pretty good. Android 21 is absolutely ridiculous. Then we've got Cumber. If Cumber goes off hard. But then like the decks that I've actually got a chance to play, being Majin Vegeta and Invoker, Both of them are a lot of fun. Like when I first put Majin Vegeta together, I didn't really understand the way that the deck wanted to flow. And I built it more or less like I built every other yellow deck. But once I played it, I was like, I really don't want these extra control cards in the deck. The deck really needs draw power. The deck really needs aggro tools to be able to be more, have a higher chance of success as the game goes along. So I've now revamped that deck. I ended up playing it at locals last night and finishing first. I had a couple really fun matches that were really fun against. We'll talk about that more specifically. But then Android 17, we're all familiar with the way that Invoker likes to play. It's got its own personal tempo style that really benefits off of understanding the matchup across the table from you. And the first week that I played that, I got paired against 21 and just got my dick knocked in the dirt by it. But I didn't really understand the 21 matchup. And I'd be interested in playing that matchup again now, kind of understanding what they want to do and understanding how to kind of counter that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, for set 20 overall, I was super negative on the set coming into it. And after spending some time like with the new decks and incorporating things like into older decks, the stuff that I thought was going to be broken is good, but not as broken as I thought it would be. And the stuff that I thought was going to be bad or subpar is actually better than I initially gave it credit for. So I think what I've learned from set 20 overall is that I'm not good at evaluating cards, just text on card.
I mean, what was the old joke that we used to say? If Jake says a card is good, it's the worst card in the game, and then if Bancroft said a card's bad, then we need to buy it out.
Speaking of,
like,
go on first.
No, go on.
Look, we all wanted this deck to be good. I saw a lot of people in the community were hyping for this deck, and I'm not saying it's the worst deck in the set. But how can a deck be good when it can't pop off till turn 4 or 5? And yes, I'm talking about Hell 17 and Super 17 in general. Like, I love the juggling mechanic of that deck, but man, was it annoying to play. And I didn't have initially Hell's Guidance in the deck when I played it the first time. That card is hands down needed if you want to properly do a juggle, even on turn 3, which you can't start until turn 3 because you have to have, I think, for the 6 drop you have to have 3 energy, for the 8 drop you have to have 4 energy, do their effects. But in order to successfully do all that stuff you want to do, you have to spend energy to Z Awaken, then spend energy to do this, and then spend energy to do this, and it's like, man, that's a lot.
I think that really, so as far as that archetype goes, I feel like that archetype was made and they forgot to print a card for that archetype. And that card's effect being to load something under the leader. I feel like that is a promo that we are eventually going to get to support and supplement that deck. But overall, as a commentary on green, you look at the energy cost requirements of being able to play up your chain for Super 17. And I think that's baseline why a lot of people shit on green is because oftentimes they have a huge energy cost requirement comparative to other colors. And some people might argue that blue plays more, but blue oftentimes get rebates on their energies or things like that to make those costs less impactful. Whereas if you look at something like red or yellow or black even, they're paying half the energy cost that the green deck is paying for an equivalent or like-minded effect.
Yeah, because to now that I recall, in order to do everything for 17, you have to, for starters, establish a regular Android 17 on the board and have a Hellfighter in your Z energy. If you don't have one on the board already prior, or even the 4-drop that you've kept alive from turn 2 to immediately pop its effect to play the 17, you have to spend energy to play one. Then you have to spend an energy to go into the 6-drop, and then you awaken you Z Awaken because that requires you to have a card underneath it or do the whole cycling, juggling, and then if you swing with the 6-drop and actually use the card as a combo, then you can't cycle into a 20k Z leader during your opponent's turn. Like, there was so many things, and I'm like, I've spent all this energy in doing stuff, and I feel like I'm still behind, even though I feel like I should be ahead at this point. So I do agree. I think that compared to other colors like blue, it's been getting a lot of stuff lately, which is just really strong. And I feel like, like red's had that for a while too. Green just, like I said, it costs twice as much to do their effects.
I mean, compared to something like Sen Shenron, there's no gimmicky chain. The big boss monster is what, 2 energy, 30k, triple strike that negs a card 30k. The Z Leader has no energy costs attached to it. The Z Leader has an amazingly strong effect that is super impactful and super relevant from the point that it's played and moves on. But then you look at this green strategy and look at it and like, why does it cost so much? Why do you have to jump through so many hoops to accomplish a fraction of what other decks are doing for pennies on the dollar, essentially?
Yeah, a lot of that Z leader juggling feels like things that red or blue would get to do for free. Just no energy at all. You just like maybe discard a card from hand or something. I think that this leader juggling mechanic over time, if it's iterated on with a couple more leaders with like this same kind of style, I think could be really powerful eventually. But I just think at the current juncture, it's just not designed well. It's just too clunky and expensive.
I want to give credit real quick to those Z leaders. They are good. They are really good if you manage to do juggling correctly. Like I said, without having Hell's Guidance in your deck or in your drop, you won't be able to do the big chain on your first time establishing a Z Awaken. But on turn 4, going into I don't remember the one. It's the one during your turn. If your opponent taps energy, you get to do cool stuff like popping a 4 or less card. And if they tap energy, you get to restand a card or something like that. And then when you switch over to Blood by Bound, which is 18 absorbed, it has a lot of effects during your opponent's turn if they tap energy, which is really good. I just feel like that isn't, compared to other things, like that's not worth what I had to do to just get to that point, even on turn 3, I felt like.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's just over-designed, a little bit too clunky.
Other green decks we haven't seen on the channel. We've seen it on the channel. I haven't done a profile on it yet because I wanted to tweak it first. Goku GT was alright. And oddly enough, I enjoyed playing Goku GT more than I enjoyed playing Super 17, but I like the concept of 17 more, even though we're just hating on it. And other decks that people thought were amazing, U3. I played that this past weekend, and I was actually surprised. The deck, even though it feels like I'm not doing a lot, you need that Z battle card. That makes that deck so good.
Quicherator?
Yeah, and the 2-drop and 4-drop, like both of them make that deck so good. And that's literally all the deck needs, because you're focusing on putting the 3-drops and 1-drops into your drop area, either by playing them first and comboing them off, or using effects to put them underneath cards. But when they're placed under the cards, those effects are so good. The permanents on the 1-drops, not Koisekai, but the other two, give a 5k permanent to the card, which is great. So during your opponent's turn, it has that 5k boost. And the other ones has an auto when they're placed under, they neg 10 right away. So like, you could pay 2 on turn 2 if you need to snipe cards out, or just put 2 5ks underneath it to keep it kind of protected and buff it. And they has barrier, so it's staying alive as long as you're not playing against yellow or something gets past barrier. And then when you go into Analaza, you remove those cards and then put them back underneath again just to redo those effects. So like if your opponent has a problematic board, you could just snipe a couple cards, and then that card itself on swing auto will neg cards for an additional 30k for every 2 cards underneath it. And if you have 6 cards underneath it, which is very easy to do actually, it gains dual attack. The auto is once returns, so you can't neg like 2 different cards 30k. But that mixed with, like, if your opponent played a Secret Rare and you play Analaza, that Secret Rare is gone, because between the 10 neg and then the 30 neg on the swing, it's dead. And then if you have other problematic cards, like I side in, I have the Gohan rare in my deck, so I just pay 1 activate battle to play it, and it negs the board again.
I think U3 kind of suffers the same fate of something like General Rildo did a couple sets ago, where there's just the you have to run so much of the archetype that you don't have a lot of room for tech. So your sideboard becomes very important. So you have to be good at siding and know your matchups. While also like there's so many moving parts, which they all search themselves out, and the backside of the leader searches top 5 on swing, which we joked about in our matchup that it feels backwards because most of the time the backside of the leader is just a straight draw one.
And I thought that was a bad thing when I first saw that. I was like, this is gonna be stupid. Like I'm gonna get to the point where I'm whiffing. I never whiffed once, which I'm playing I think 31.
31.
You 3 cards in my deck, and my side it's between 29 and 30, but I never once missed, and it actually felt good, except for my first game where I couldn't find the fucking Paparoni guy. Like I couldn't find him until turn 6. I managed to win that game, but it took me till turn 6 to find my 1-drop, which is very weird.
I was gonna say, isn't he a 1-drop?
Yeah. But he's not
that
searchable.
Feels terrible.
He's not searchable by any other mean, unfortunately. And for the deck to function, you had to have one of him on the board or in hand, I think, to get the effect off. Because in order to
go, have hard mulligan for it.
Yeah, that's why I learned
Was that the mirror match?
Yeah, that was it was a mirror match. That was a fun match.
But yeah, with so many names that you have to keep track of and cycle within that deck, it can get really complicated in some cases. And there's a lot of cases that you can just straight brick and you just can't play the game. But I feel like decks like this have their niche in the meta. Like I don't think Generaldo did much, and I'm comparing the two decks because they're very, very similar.
They're very
similar. I called it literally.
I think of Rildo.
U3, in my opinion, was like a mix between General Rildo and the trio of Saiyans, I feel like.
Kind of, yeah.
And to maybe segue into something a little bit different, negging the field is going to be very strong if this Goku Black deck ends up popping off and we have a lot of Indestructible running around. Due to game mechanic, the card will be removed, so we might see U3 and some of these red board clearing strategies be a little bit more popular if this deck takes off, which I don't know if we want to talk too much about it because not all the cards have been revealed, but I'm really excited for the Ultimate deck. We've sung the praises of the Ultimate decks in the past and how they're just a fantastic product.
I mean, Cell broke the meta for a while, I felt like Cell was just really strong.
My big problem with the Ultimate deck right now is I feel like it's just dead on arrival. And I've never felt that way about an Ultimate deck. Like, I love Zamasu and Goku Black. I think I've labbed every iteration of the deck there's ever been since set 2, but it just feels like it's dead on arrival. If Android 21 takes off in the format, the deck can't do anything against her.
Because your things that you're ramping her are indestructible, so she couldn't remove them if she wanted to.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Ultimate deck, just as a product, like here's a deck we're going to put out once a year that's intended to be strong enough to take to a locals and do well out of the box, and then maybe you can add a few staples and things to it and get it to another higher power level. I think that's a perfect idea for a product. And where they only come out once a year, it keeps them from like inundating the market with reprints. I think it's like just a perfectly positioned product overall for players and for the company.
And all the cards being foil in there is really nice too. Like, especially if you're not interested in playing it, like you could just have interest in picking up the deck because you want, foil super combos that you might not have, and you can pick it up for a relatively cheap price.
Topo was in it 1 year, right?
It was in Topo. Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah, and like there's always like multiple builds that you could make out of these new cards. We've seen multiple builds of Cell. Toa made dramatic changes between its meta relevant deck.
Toa changed the way the game worked.
Which I think that was just more so an oversight on Bandai's part, on text on card, not to say that the Ultimate deck is that amazing, but like I'm a big fan of the Ultimate deck product, and I'm excited to see more of them. Even if the deck is not as good as the previous ones, like I'm still happy that we're getting this again.
Speaking of excitement, So like I said earlier, me and Jimmy both got a chance to play the digital beta, which surprisingly I enjoyed way more than I thought I was going to. I didn't mind the selection cards that were there, and I was actually surprised to find like there were set 10 cards. There was wasn't there like a set.
It was like draft box cards in there too.
Draft box 3. I thought there was like a set 12 or 13. Something that threw me off. Like I was like, okay, but I think the cards they chose were perfect in a sense. Like they didn't pick anything that was too game breaking. But yes, we got to see the classic Brogeta deck return to some degree.
Oh no!
Yeah, night 1 it was just all structure decks and it was just hunky dory fun. And then night 2 I played Brogeta every single game of the night, which it was a nice little nostalgic flashback. But damn, I don't want to see that deck anymore.
So this beta though kind of put my eyes up to the way the programming obviously is going to be worked for this game, and this is obviously why it's a beta. We'll have more as time goes on, but there was a 4-drop Goku, for example, that is a counterattack and has a permanent. If you pitch 2 cards from your hand, it costs 1 pretty much. It reduces cost by 3. But people would have 1 energy in their hand open. They would have the card. They will have sand cards, but they couldn't do it. So I think Jake was watching me while I was playing this match. I just passed with 4 energy 1 turn because I wanted to see something. And I was like, oh, cool. I have the option now to play this negate. I picked it to play. And then it said permanent. I'm like, yeah, I'll pitch 2 cards. And then I only tapped 1 energy for it. And then I couldn't play the second one afterwards. And I was like, okay. So the game is now looking at this card costs 4. There's no additional, like it doesn't look for an if or then variable. It just goes, it costs 4. You can't play unless you have 4 energy. Okay, you're now playing this card. It has a permanent, which reduces the cost. You have to use this permanent. And that was the whole, I think I was explaining to Jake, it was intended versus the way we've seen it. Like, was it always intended to be that way? You need 4 energy to play this card, but then reduce the cost? And obviously not. That's not the response, but that's how the program's going to see it. So it was just funny to come across one of those bugs. I think another bug, I didn't see this bug, but people were saying, was it Kel was popping Zamasus or something? Or
popping indestructible.
Yeah, was it just a Kel that was doing that?
I believe so. That's the only one that I heard about.
Just a bug.
I personally didn't run into any major bugs while playing. All of my gripes with the game are very nitpicky things, which I think is really good for being this early in a beta. Just like small visual things. I don't like that the cards don't actually go sideways when you attack with them. It's a little bit of like a visual clutter thing. Also, shout out to the cat. It's like a visual clutter thing for me, where it's just like all the cards that say rest. Like I would just like to see the card tap, and maybe that's just my paper card game brain working there. But I'm really, really pleased, and I'm really, really excited to see the future of this. And I think with the visuals and how well the game functions, I think the tutorial could be a little bit more in depth for newer players. I felt like it was kind of bare bones when I was going through, but of course we play the game. But I could see this game like really, really popping off in a completely new market.
Push.
Thanks.
So I didn't get a chance to actually play the beta, but this is just kind of my take on it. Just from everything that I've heard, I think that, like Jimmy just touched on it, on opening the game up to a new market of players. I really feel like this is the opportunity for Bandai to really push, advertise, and get people really excited about the digital client. It might bring people into the physical card game and open a new pool of players to come in and play. But me personally, I don't give a shit about the digital client. I have zero interest in playing it. I didn't apply for the beta. I would much rather meet with my friends in person and play physical card on table 100% of the time over using a digital client.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like this is not going to replace the paper game for me. Like the reason that I stuck with this game so long is getting to go to locals and play with my friends. and have something to do on that day. The digital client is not going to be the same because I can stay home and play video games anytime. It doesn't have to be Dragon Ball. Like, I choose to go out and play Dragon Ball. But I think this is great for new players, and like, throughout the week when I get that Dragon Ball itch, like the midweek, waiting for the weekend, and it's like I can just jump on and, play a couple games real quick and not have to slog through an untapped game.
Yeah.
My concern, we've talked about this before, is between seasoned players and then new players coming to the digital market, how are the cards going to be placed out? We won't know until that happens. Like, where we have all this stuff, are we gonna have access to the cards then? We got to pay for the cards. We don't know how it's gonna work out yet. But I like the idea, if we have like kind of like Pokemon, if we open a pack and there's a code in there, cool, we can use that code to get packs in the game. And then I think it would be helpful for testing purposes. Be able to just throw your deck together there and then go and play with your buddies on that way compared to doing Untap. Nothing against Untap, but like
something against Untap.
There's
a little bit against Untap.
But there's no, like, it doesn't proc anything. Like, you have to go, hey, you need to do this effect. Or in the game, it goes, oh, that's an effect. Yes, you have to do that thing. Yeah. But like, I have my buddy Jones, who I talk to a lot, and we used to do like the manga thing over the Dragon Ball Super manga, and he's what got me into Dragon Ball originally, or not the game, but the show. And if he has the ability to play with me over the internet, the card game, so I can show him how to play, I think it's great for that purpose. But I do agree, like, I do enjoy playing in person, playing with the cards, because like Jake saw my matchup where I had one life. I forgot that I was at one life because the cards aren't in front of me. It's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I'll swing. Yeah, I'll activate the auto. Oh, wait. I have one life. I can't take a life or I'll die. But there was no back button. I couldn't back out the option of saying I wanted to take a life. Like, I committed to that, and now I have to take my last life to kill myself. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad.
Just mistakes you would never make in paper.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me personally, as long as the client has a decent selection of cards to build with and has extraneous support, like tournaments and things outside of just like queuing ranked over and over again, or even if it is just queuing ranked over and over again, I plan on playing the client a lot. I didn't get beta access, but I did get to like hear things people were talking about and stuff like that. But I think I'm going to be doing both. I think I'm going to be going to locals, going to regionals, practicing it on the nights, and sometimes on the weekends with the digital client. And it really just gives you more opportunities to play. And what I think is really important is different people to play against. So you'll see different stuff and different techniques and things like that you don't normally see in your play group, and it'll make you a better player overall.
The one thing that I am really interested about that is like keeps my interest peaked in the digital client is, what is the distribution method going to be for cards? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be more like Pokemon TCG? Is it going to be more like Magic Gathering's online client? Or is it going to be more like Master Duel, where you don't really have to invest money as long as you're putting the time into it?
I would love to see it go down the path of like Master Duel, where, I mean, I think anybody that's played Master Duel here, you could have the best meta deck in the game after just a few hours of gameplay, and you don't have to invest a single penny into it. I do... go on.
I'll say Master Duels, they had separate differently too. It wasn't based on the packs, right? It was like certain themes.
They build new sets out of the cards, and they're like, they thematically make sense. Yeah. So like you might have
a dragon-based set.
And that'll have like Boral Sword Dragon will be in it, and then there'll be like Blue Eyes stuff. Yeah. It'll all make sense. I think if Bandai was smart, they would copy Master Duel as close to 1-to-1 as they can get away with. I think that is the best version of a digital card game I have played, and I beta tested Hearthstone, beta tested Magic Arena Online. I've played just about every digital card game of really any note. I played, what was the Artifact? Was that Steam's digital card game back in the day?
Shit, yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
so I've played a lot of digital card games, and I think Master Duel might be the best. Just as far as distribution method, fairness to the player, you could really, if you wanted to, you could spend money and have everything. But there's a lot of like in-game quests and stuff to earn currency, and you earn currency just from playing ranked. I think it's the most fair way to distribute
I,
cards to players.
I would be slightly upset to see a dramatic format shift between the physical game and the digital client, which that's just going to happen because it's different player bases. But like, if you look at something like Master Duel, the paper game of Yu-Gi-Oh just got out of the Tier 0 format at tier limits, and those are still on the way for Master Duel. So they're almost like a format behind. Plus, they have cards like Pack C and like all of this. It would like it'd be like if Dragon Ball had uneroded Bean and like I don't know, fucking
or Champa was still in the format.
Champa's still in the format, or Legendary.
They tested a format with like Plan for Destruction to come back at 4. Or something like that.
Yeah, there will be weird stuff that happens, 100%, because they won't roll out, unless I'm wrong, which I don't think I am. They won't roll out everything that's been printed up to now right as the game launches. I think that would be the smartest thing to do, but just as far as like data goes and everything, it's just really not feasible, I don't think, especially if they want to launch it this year. So I think everything that's been printed will be rolled out in waves, and I think that will create a bunch of those weird formats, but eventually it will catch up. And even if it doesn't, you're just kind of playing a different game. Although I do think, Jimmy, that would diminish my interest in it. Honestly, probably a lot if the format was way different than what was in paper, because then I couldn't use it to practice for paper.
Talking about locals this week, I don't think we really talked about locals. If we have time for it.
Yeah. For real quick, on camera, because I didn't say that at all. We have Majin Vegeta versus Android 18, Coomer versus U3, and then Bobbity, the promo Bobbity, which it's the only new leader, taking on U3 as well. So those are our matchups. And I think of us all, Jake was the one who wasn't on camera. We talked about a little bit about my mirror match in the beginning. I played Jimmy on camera and I played Trevor on camera. So I'm not going to touch too much on those. But you two played, Fluff and Jimmy. You guys played off camera.
In round 3, yeah.
You guys want to talk about that interaction?
I guess this does spoil a little bit, but this was Fluff did say you get first place, and this was round 3, so we were gunning for first place. I was finally getting around to playing Cumber, and not to go too deep on that, I'll go more deep in the actual gameplay video. But like, I'm really enjoying the deck. It performed a lot better than I expected it to, but in our matchup, I felt that I had this. It was easy. I got this easy right here. Like, I had my secret rare down. I had like all 5 pieces of my Exodia combo. I was about to go in, and I saw an opportunity when Fluff tapped out, and I was like, got it. Swung with my lead, comboed out my entire hand, slammed a Kraken Space Time down. I'm up to like 95,000 double strike on my lead. And Fluff just real casually, he's just like, all right, super combo. Super combo. I don't think he got the 4th super combo.
I did not see the 4th super combo.
Yeah, I did not see the 4th super combo. But then he goes, I'm going to Z-Awaken. And I'm like, homie? And I'm looking at his energy. I'm like, you tapped out. And he goes, I can just Z-Awaken.
Yeah, just any time.
I was just like, he's Z-Awaken. I was like, that's bullshit. And he's playing Majin Vegeta, so he took himself down and gave himself the boost, and he still had enough to combo out, and he still had like 6 cards in hand at the after he had comboed out, and I'm sitting there, no cards in hand. I'm at 4 life. I'm like, well, this shit sucks. And I passed, and I was like, okay, like, the worst that could happen is that I'm like, he can't activate Double Strike on his leader. Like, the worst that he can really do is, play the Secret Rare on me and then pull the 8-drop Goku. And as I'm saying this, he's tapping 3 energy and putting an extra card into play. And he goes through his deck and he just sends the 8-drop Goku to warp, and I'm like, is that what it does? And I remembered, oh, this cocksucker is about to stunt on me, and he drops the Ghost Rare on the field. In the case, he did not he did not take it out, and he drops the Ghost Rare on me, and I'm like, well, like, you don't gotta like rub it in, homie. Like, you already won. You just comboed out a 95,000 double strike. Like, it's cool.
That's the whole point of me playing that super combo, or that secret rare. Because otherwise, I would have just ran Gohan Piccolo and made my life easier and made the deck better.
Yeah.
So...
I will
that
say,
was like a touch. That was like an end zone touchdown dance you just did on this man.
I will say, I was on camera and you guys were sitting beside us when that happened. I just hear fall up, oh, he's gonna crack and space me. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's it then. And I look back over later and Jimmy's like, whatever, because you had it. You had the ghost rare, the holographic rare, whatever they're calling it, on the board. I'm like, damn, all right, you pulled that off.
I had like 14 or 15 cards in hand when Jimmy comboed in. And granted, like 2 of them were boos that I couldn't combo with because I was tapped out. And really funny in that turn, when he played the secret rare, and I think off the action of the secret rare, one other move he did, he was playing another card, and I almost Vegito counterplayed him. And then I was like, fuck, if I Vegito counterplay him, he's just going to take the Vegito, not really understanding the way that the Cumber interaction works, because he wouldn't have been able to take it, because the Vegito would have then been an 8-drop. So I took that back and then tapped 2 energy for a blocker negate. It just saw this smirk on Jimmy's face, and I was like, well, I think I'm fucked.
Well, as soon as I saw him tap out, I was like, because in my head, I was like, he has to tap 1 to Z Awaken. Which I don't know why, because they're trying to push this fucking Majin Vegeta deck so hard. Of course it's a free Z Awaken. But I was like, okay, he tapped out. Like, I just win. Because I'm just gonna bait the blocker token, and then I'm gonna swing in with Kraken Space Time on my leader. And then when he Z Awakened, I was like, well, that just sucks.
Yeah.
But like we were talking after the game, I was like, part of me was happy that you're about to Vegito counterplay me, because I was just gonna pass after that and leave my big Cumber up and take whatever you play next, and live with my like 20 card hand. And then as soon as he tapped 2, I'm like, I'm going in. There's no way.
Yeah, Vegeta is really good about making itself appear defenseless while having like straight gas in hand and on the leaders. Yeah.
All right, with that being said, I guess that's about it. We're done. That's a lot of shit we talked about. I'm gonna leave you off of one thing. Look, we got our community. We need to protect it to some degree. Just be kind to everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
If you see something, say something.